Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So here we are continuing with our reading and discussion of Prahlād Charit, and we're starting right from the beginning. This pastime spans the whole of the 7th canto, which is 10 chapters, and there is quite a long backstory to the main part on Prahlād, the focal point on Prahlād's Leela. So we're starting right from the beginning. And we're very lucky to have Suvasini Didi with us today. So we are in Canto 7, Chapter 1, and we concluded on verse number 9. So Didi, do you want to continue with chanting the Sanskrit verses?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Where did we stop?
We finished the purport of verse 9, so we can begin from verse 10.
Okay. Okay, sure. Sure. Okay. So this is verse 10. Yada sisrukshuku pura atmanaha praro rajaha srijatyesha prataksva mayaya sattvam vichitra suriram sur ishvaraha sayishyamanas tama irayatyasau.
When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity, according to his character and fruit of actions, the Lord revives all the qualities of material nature, sattva guna, raja guna, and tama guna. Then, as the Supersoul, he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using sattva guna for maintenance, raja guna for creation, and tama guna for annihilation. So these are all the elements, right, that you could say they comprise the space suit that we're all holding, living in this material world, right? Of course, we are essentially Atma, we are spirit souls, but we have somehow or other ended up in this material plane. And these are some of the principal elements of this worldly plane that we are covered by and which we're also navigating in the world around us. So here is, so we can also read Srila Swami Maharaj's purport. Although material nature is conducted by the three qualities, sattva guna, raja guna, and tama guna, nature is not independent. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya jakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam etuna nena kunteya jagad parivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving beings. Rishabhanu, I'm going to make you a co-host, just to help in case anyone else comes in. Thank you. So, right, so this is the key point here, right? And this is made multiple times in Bhagavad Gita, that yes, there is this bewildering plane of the material energy, and there's this bewildering plane of the material energy, but it is not independent, right? Ultimately, that energy is a person, Maya Devi, and she is not independent. She has a boss, and ultimately Krishna is in the background of everything. And there's that other very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, which is not on the tip of my tongue right now, but I know Suvasini, do you remember it?
दैवी हि एषा
Mm.
गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया
Mm.
मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति. Yeah, this is, it
Right.
says mama maya, this is my maya. Like,
Mm.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. My Maya, Krishna is saying very clearly, my Maya. I am her boss. Right. And by surrendering to me, you can easily overcome this, what is otherwise an insurmountable energy in this world. Um, so this is another verse in Gita which is indicating the same thing, right? Krishna is saying that she's operating, under my control ultimately. The different changes in the material world take place as actions and reactions of the three gunas, these three qualities of material nature, three modes. But above the three gunas is their director, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the various types of bodies given, and I really loved that one line of Srila Swami Maharaj in one of the purports we read last week, where he was speaking about, I think it was how there were so many wars going on, right, in the world. And he says what's really happening is these energies of tamagun and rajagun, the energies of passion and ignorance, they are in play, right? They're activated and they're in play. That's actually what's going on, right? If we're seeing something from broader vision. And it's, in a on a practical day-to-day level, I think it's something that can be very helpful, right? For example, if someone becomes angry at us, instead of reacting and taking that on a personal level, we can see, oh, this person is just under the influence of the mode of passion. Right? That's all that's happening. It's not really about me, right? But they're just under the influence of Rajagun and Tamagun. Okay. I can understand, right? And that can help us to remain, peaceful, remain shanti, and keep our focus on what's really important, right? Um,
Mhm.
so in the various types of bodies given to the living entities by material nature, yantra, rudani, maya, either sattva guna, rajagun, or tamagun is prominent. The body is produced by material nature according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, it is said here, Yada Sishikshu Pura Atmana Para, indicating that the body is certainly created by the Lord. Karmana Daiva Netrena, according to the karma of the living entity, a body is prepared under the Supreme Lord's supervision. So this spacesuit, right? And according to our karma, um, then our spacesuit is comprised to different proportions, right? Of Rajagun, Tamagun, Sattvagun, right? Gurudev mentioned and generally people are going to be mixed, right? It's not that someone's going to be 100% in the mode of goodness or 100% in the mode of passion or ignorance, but could be, 60% mode of goodness, 20% mode of passion, 20% mode of ignorance, and like that could be 10% mode of goodness, 80% mode of passion, 10% mode of ignorance. Generally it's going to be like that. We all have a little bit of all of the gunas within us, but one of them may be more dominant than the others, right? And so we all have our own unique blueprint of a spacesuit. So whether the body is of sattva guna, Rajaguna, or Tamaguna, everything is done by the direction of the Supreme Lord through the agency of the external energy, Pritak Swa Mayaya. In this way, in different types of bodies, the Lord Ishvara gives directions as Paramatma, and again, to destroy the body, he employs the Tamaguna, mode of ignorance. In this way, the living entities receive different types of bodies. And we can also kind of zoom out of this discussion here and keep that broader context of remembering that ultimately we we are striving to connect with the nirguna plane, right? There's the saguna plane, that means with material qualities, and that's comprised of these three types, right? Goodness, passion, ignorance. And generally, right, we emphasize the mode of goodness. We want to live in the mode of goodness, but we also have to keep the perspective that that's still a part of the material energy. And what we really are interested in is the nirguna plane, what is, literally means no gunas, no material qualities, and means what is transcendental, right? What is spiritual, where there is Krishna's connection. So we have to keep that perspective in mind, right? And this is kind of a radical thing, actually, within the context of the Vedic world. That's kind of a radical concept, right? This is the final message of Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna's final word, right? That ultimately all these considerations, they don't matter, right? What is dharma, what is adharma, what is good, what is bad? None of those things really are important in the final consideration. What is important is your relationship with me, right? The absolute center of all. So that is something to keep in mind. And in one place, to really like give some, you know, clear idea of what is what, Shalashita Maharaj, he goes so far as to say the difference between these gunas is like wet stool and dry stool, right? That dry stool is better than wet stool, but it's still stool, right? And so in the same way, the mode of goodness, it is better than the others, but it is still one of the gunas. It is still a part of the material energy. So that is something to bear in mind. And while we have material bodies, we are under the influence of the material energies. We do have to know how to navigate these energies, and we do strive to stay situated in the mode of goodness, but we do have to keep that perspective, right? That ultimately what we want is something much more, right? It's something that transcends all of these things. And that, of course, is determined by how much the connection of Krishna is there, how much Krishna's interest is involved. Tat padat vena nirmalam, right? This is one verse cited by Rupa Goswami. Srila Maharaj emphasizes a lot. Purity is to be considered according to how much of a connection with the Lord is there. So that is our overarching aspiration and what we are striving for. Just to keep that broader context in mind. Um, and Suvasni, if you want to add anything at any point, please do jump in.
No, I'm just, just wanted to ask. It's, see, the mode of goodness. Then, it's usually encouraged, right, in many
Mm.
places. That mode of goodness, and so can we say that this is like, you know, uh, a better platform for connecting with, the nirguna plane, or well, of course, it doesn't matter. It can be in any from anywhere one can connect. But is that the reason why that is like, more encouraged for, the mode of goodness? Because, we see in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna talks about, in the three modes of material nature, and the later chapters, doing everything in the mode of goodness is something
Mm.
which is like, you know, uh, seems to be that is being encouraged, right? I mean, of course, it is a good thing to be in the mode of goodness, but will it be like uh, that's the reason it can easy for one to connect with the higher plane? Will you
Oh,
say like
yeah. I
that,
mean,
or?
I mean, that's exactly how I think of it, that it, as you said, it creates a good platform. It creates a good foundation. Um, there's that nice analogy that's given early on in Gita, right? Of the different degrees to which the gunas are covering the soul. right?
Mm.
So the mode of ignorance is compared to the embryo inside of the womb. The mode of passion is compared to a mirror covered with a thick layer of dust, and then the mode of goodness is like the smoke around a fire, right? And so there's the covering is less thick. And so yes, in general, it does, there's more of a perception of the plane of spirit, and it's more favorable to cultivating spiritual life and connection with the Lord, right? So generally speaking, yes, it creates a favorable environment for spiritual culture. That is, how I see it. But at the same time, we know that same mode of goodness, it can also work against someone, right? And that's something
Yeah.
Srila Govinda Maharaj has pointed out, because it can give some pride, right? That
Right.
is,
Yeah.
that is one issue that can come up. And there are various other things. And someone may be in a mode of goodness, but may be almost an atheist. We've also seen cases like that. So it's
Mhm.
not like a surefire thing, right? But generally speaking, it puts one in a better position, right? It's safer, we could say. It's safer. Like if someone says, "Okay, I'm gonna just I do hear devotees say sometimes that they deliberately, do, very things that are very bad for their spiritual life to keep me humble, like I've heard devotees say that, like I need to keep myself humble, so I break the regulative principles and this and that, right? It keeps me humble. And I mean, if that's really coming from a really sincere place, then, I can respect that. But we also don't want to cheat ourselves. And it's a risky business, it's a
Mm.
risky business because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where the material energy can take you, right? And how
Yeah.
complex the web of karma can trap you, right? So
Mm.
it's a risky business to get involved with all these things. So the mode of goodness is like the safe bet, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
safest choice.
Yeah.
And some of these, comments that we hear from our gurus, they're like speaking from such a high platform because because generally, like there's so generally in the Vedic teachings and in Gita, there's so much emphasis on the mode of goodness. And we could see that as like kind of preschool level, right? That's like preschool level. But once you like get to the PhD level, like the discussion completely changes, right? To the point where, you have Raghunath Das Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying that if you're too attached to worship in the mood of awe and reverence, you'll be hurled down to Vaikuntha, right? You'll be thrown down. Like Vaikuntha's like the worst place in the world, like. And so then you have Srila Sridhar saying, "Oh, mode of goodness is like dry stool," like they're just like speaking from such a, like we're down in like the kindergarten level, and they're like way up there beyond like speaking at the PhD level, and then we're like, huh? Like how do we reconcile these two things, right? So, like for us, it's like, yeah, let's just try and follow the mode of goodness, right? Like that's, but then in a certain level, none of that matters at all. And it becomes so irrelevant. Like another thing that comes to mind is we heard, I think it was from Goswami Maharaj, we heard of how some devotees they brought Gurudev some prasad of Nrsingadev, right? We're discussing the Shri Nrsingadev. And Gurudev accepted that prasad, and he said, we are taking because we are afraid of Nrsingadev. And he said, but Guru Maharaj would not take. He said, Guru Maharaj would not take. And Nrsingadev is afraid of Guru Maharaj. That was Gurudev's comment. So they're like just like they're like walking at this like really high level, and their perspective is different, right? Like, like also Srila Sridharmaraj, he always gives caution about Nama Parad, offensive chanting. But then he also always cautions about Nama Bas, like hazy chanting, shadow chanting. He always gives caution about that, like it's like almost equally bad as offensive chanting. But again, like he's talking from this really high level. And in Gurudev once he was discussing that and saying, for us, if we can chant Namabas, that's a good thing. And he said, we can attain liberation. Of course, we don't want liberation in our highest aspiration, but it would be helpful. It would be helpful for us if we were liberated. Like let's not pretend we're on Shalashina Marge's level. Oh, liberation. Oh, get away from me. Like let's not pretend, like that would be a good thing for us.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky thing, right? We have to kind of like harmonize all these different perspectives and also understand like what's our position, right? And where we, as
Mm.
Rishabhanami said, right, understanding we're here and that's where the ideal is, right? And we have to find that middle point, right? Of what's
Mm.
actually applicable to us, right?
Yes, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion.
That's beautiful what you explained. It's very nice. Yeah.
Oh, all these things. I'm happy to have the opportunity to discuss them more. Um, so, let's see, where were we? I think,
We just finished 10, right?
right,
Verse 10.
that's right. Yeah, verse 10. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to continue then? Well, we got through
Okay.
one verse.
कालं चरन्तं सृजतीश आश्रयं प्रधान पुंभ्यां नरदेव सत्यकृत्.
O great King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of the material and spiritual energies, who is certainly the creator of the entire cosmos, creates the time factor to allow the material energy and the living entity to act within the limits of time. Thus, the Supreme Personality is never under the time factor nor under the material energy. And this is something I've been thinking about lately, right? How, uh, you know, the whole concept of time and space, it's something of this world, right? It's hard for us to really conceive of there being a plane where these things don't even matter, right?
Hmm.
They're limitations, right? Limitations of this world, limitations of time and space. But the liberated souls and of course, what to speak of the Lord's associates, eternal associates, they live within just a completely different zone, right? Past, present, future, those things are not really a thing, right? They're living in one like eternal continuum. It's quite liberating, to think of that because with our material conditioning, everything's very narrow for us, right? And you know, just in a very like simple sense, like in our daily lives, we get disturbed by what are really so many insignificant things, right? If we think of, this life is like one tiny blip within eternity, right? Like then we get some different perspective, right? What's actually important? What's actually worth giving our attention to or being, having some anxiety about, right? All of these things, right? We waste so much time at these things. And being in the company, having some little time in the company of Srila Govinda Maharaj, we got to have some experience of that, some little touch of that, that he wasn't limited, by these things of time and space as we are. And and there were also a few occasions where, one thing I've been thinking about recently is like, in our conception, we have like things in this order, right? Beginning, middle, end, and one, two, three. And but within eternity, things aren't like that, you know. And there's this broadness there, so like for example, we hear about how, normally we hear about the yugas, right? Satya, Treta, Dwapara. That's actually a different order, right? Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. That the cycle happens in different ways, right? Sometimes it happens this way, sometimes it happens that way, right? Things like that. And there were some other examples I was thinking of too, but I can't think now. But like one little thing with Gurudev that just comes to mind now is when this is something Madhusudana Maharaj told me, Mahananda Prabhu at the time, that it's published in 4 volumes. We have Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, volume 1, 2, 3, 4. But Gurudev requested that volume 4 be printed before volume 3. Gurudev had, and I don't remember exactly the reason why, but like Gurudev just had this different way of thinking about it. Like there wasn't this rigid, linear, that's the word I'm looking for. We're so accustomed to this very linear way of thinking and
Mm.
doing things. But Gurudev, and I can't remember, we can ask Madhusudana Maharaj, and he had some particular reason why he wanted number 4, you know, to to um to come first. And another thing that comes to mind now is something Isha Bandhu Prabhu, our god brother in Australia, told me that because Isha Bandhu, he actually helped with drawing up the plans for our Govardhan temple. And because he's an artist, a graphic designer. And so Gurudev asked him, and he was there, and Gurudev asked him to make some drawings for the plans. And when that was going on, Isha Bandhu said that Srila Gurudev, he started having these visions of the temple being destroyed in the future by some antagonistic party, um, that the temple was being destroyed, and Gurudev was contemplating that and then feeling some hesitation about continuing with the building. But in the end, he proceeded. No, we will, whatever happens in the future, we will do this now. And there was this sense of like, like he's making this offering, and that's something that exists within the eternal time, right? And so within this world of our direct objective experience, like things are coming and going, but within eternity, they're always present, right? Like another thing now I'm remembering, um, also I heard from Madhusudana Maharaj that when Gurudev was building Srila Sridhar Maharaj's Samadhi Mandir, the temple of union and separation, then Gurudev commented at that time, he said, Guru Maharaj's pastimes are eternal. And he said, so this temple is already existing, but we are manifesting it. It's becoming revealed now, right? It's becoming revealed, right, to the eye, right? Similarly, of course, we're familiar with the concept of the Lord's pastimes, right? There we hear they're always continuing, they're always present, but sometimes they're like appearing on the surface so that we have some perception of them, but they're always going on, right? And it's just a wonderful thing to contemplate because we really like put our with our material conditioning, the mental, the way the mind likes to work, we put things in these very limited ways, right? In these boxes, we put ourselves in boxes and tie ourselves down to this very limited way of seeing things, but Our gurus are not like that, you know. And we also saw with our Gurudev that he, I think it's something many of us experience, like when he would speak about the Lord's associates, when he'd speak about Mahaprabhu's associates or our Vaishnava charges from previous times, he always spoke about them like he was on an intimate acquaintance with them. It wasn't like he was speaking about a historical figure, but it was clear he has some relationship with them, and he's not just talking about someone in an encyclopedia, but it's clear that he, has some real relationship and connection with them because they're living in the plane of consciousness and there's this broadness there. Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives the example picking up the telephone. In a sense, that transcends time and space, right? Or at least it transcends space. You pick up the telephone, or like now we're on a Zoom call, we can connect with people, in all corners of the planet, right? So in a sense, we're transcending the limitation of space, right? But then with these great souls who are living in the eternal time, that limitation of time and space is not there at all. So you can directly contact them if you're at that level of consciousness, right? Like Srila Sridhar Maharaj also gives the example, and I believe he was speaking about the Lord's pastimes. He said, like if you throw a flower into a running body of water, that flower will move away from you, right? But if you can keep up with the speed of that current, then the flower will be there next to you, right? And so in the same way, if we are at that, you know, level of consciousness, we can directly contact these great souls, right? So just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's in his Navadip Dham Mahatmya, right? He's transcending time and space. He's able to tap in to that live stream of Nityananda Prabhu taking Jiva Goswami around Navadip Dham, personally on parikrama, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because of his advanced consciousness, he can transcend these limitations of time and space and tap into those pools of reality, right, that are always existing, the divine Leela of the Lord. Do you remember, Didi, that statement of Saraswati Thakur, where he says about the Lord's Leela, the Lord's pastimes, they're not history and they're not imagination. And then he describes them in another way. I don't know if you do you remember that? I can't remember the word that he used.
No, I don't remember.
Mm, yeah, I have to try and find that very nice expression. Okay, well, let's read this purport. One should not think that the Lord is dependent on the time factor. He actually creates the situation by which material nature acts and by which the conditioned soul is placed under material nature. Both the conditioned soul and the material nature act within the time factor, right? That's like our thing, the time factor, right? It's a charming way to articulate it. But the Lord is not subject to the actions and reactions of time, for time has been created by him. To be more clear, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that creation, maintenance, and annihilation are all under the supreme will of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Yada yada hi dharmasya ganir bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrujamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Since Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller of everything, when he appears, he is not within the limitations of material time. Janma karma chame divyam. And that reminds me this one talk of Srila Gurudev. It was during his first visit to Italy, which was 1999, if I'm not mistaken. And someone was asking Gurudev about this point, like, because on the one hand we hear like you can only see Krishna with very advanced vision, but we also hear about Krishna walking and talking and moving with the common people of the world, right? And so someone was asking Gurudev about that, like what were the general people seeing? And Gurudev, he said Maya Krishna, like they're seeing some, they're not seeing the original divine form of Krishna. That takes, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena, that takes very advanced vision, the vision of love, right? But they're seeing, some covering, right? And that's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, right? Yoga Maya Samavrita, right? That's the verse. Krishna is saying that my form is covered, right? The general people, they cannot see. My form is covered by Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is covering, protecting my original divine form. So the general people, they cannot see that. So I thought that was an interesting point. And so ultimately it is the Lord's will, right? If someone can see. And there's that incident with it was Dhritarashtra, right? Dhritarashtra, because Duryodhan came up with this very unintelligent plan to try and tie Krishna up, right? So that
Okay.
he could no longer, support the Pandavas or something. And so he calls Krishna to his assembly with a false invitation. And then he has some of his soldiers go and try and tie him up, which is a very ridiculous thing. Um, and Krishna then shows this universal form, right? And then so many persons in that assembly, they're astonished to see this wonderful sight, and they're all expressing you know, um, their joy and glorifying him, chanting prayers and so on. And Dhritarashtra is blind, right? And so he requests Krishna, oh, please, can you allow me? Can you remove my blindness? Can you allow me to see you? And Krishna tells him it's not a question of being blind or not, but if I will you to see me, then you can see me. It's nothing to do with this seeing of the material eyes, right? It is something else. So the eye to see, right? That's a very crucial aspect of our devotional culture. We are trying to develop that eye. In one place, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he says, the Gaudiya Vaishnava student, they are more interested in developing the eye to see the deity than the deity himself, right? First, we need to develop the eye, right? To be able to have that darshan. So through proper hearing and proper understanding, then we will have proper realization and vision, right?
There's this verse, Rupa Goswami saying that it's Atha Sri Krishna Nama di na bhaved grahyam indriyahi, that this is not, can't be reached by the senses, right? Indriya na bhaved
Mm,
grahyam. So the only, he says, Sevan mukhehi jighvado swayameva spuratya. That's only when Krishna wills, with pleased with our serving attitude, then
mm,
that can be revealed. That is, yeah.
mm,
It is beyond the mundane experience. All this,
mm,
Krishna's name, form, everything is beyond the
mm,
material, mundane senses. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, that's the fundamental point, right? That sevan mukhe jiva dao, by culturing that spirit of service, surrender. That is the only way to attract the revelation of that higher plane. Very nice, Didi. Um, let's see, where did we leave off. Since Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller of everything, when he appears, he is not within the limitations of material time. In this verse, the words kalam, charantam, shrijatish, ashayam indicate that although the Lord acts within time, whether sattva guna, rajaguna, or tamaguna is prominent, one should not think that the Lord is under time's control. So he may have that posing at times, right? Um, and Srila Swami Maharaj, in parentheses, he quoted this verse, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, right? That's one famous verse in Gita where Krishna is making that point, that if someone can appreciate that my janma and my karma, my birth and my activities are all divyam, are all divine, they will be liberated by that realization. So it is his leela, it is his pastime, that he's appearing within the confines of time and space. Even, as we mentioned recently, taking birth in a prison cell, you know, to that extreme, he is completely beyond that. That is his leela. Time is within his control, for he creates time to act in a certain way. He is not working under the control of time. And what is that wonderful line in the end of Brahma Samhita, right? That time is waiting for the order of Krishna. There's that wonderful line there. Time does not move, without Krishna's instruction. Very nice verse. Um, the creation of the material world is one of the Lord's pastimes. Everything is fully under his control. Since creation takes place when Rajagun is prominent, the Lord creates the necessary time to give facilities for Rajagun. Similarly, he also creates the necessary times for maintenance and annihilation. Thus, this verse establishes that the Lord is not under the limitations of time. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Krishna is the supreme controller. Satchidananda Vigraha, he possesses a blissful spiritual body. Anadi, he is not subordinate to anything, as the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Mata Parataram Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Nothing can be above Krishna, for he is the controller and creator of everything. The Mayavadi philosophers say that this material world is mithya, false, and that one should therefore not bother about this mithya creation. Brahma satyam, jagan mithya. But this is not correct. Here it is said, satya krit. Whatever is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, satyam param, cannot be called mithya or false. The cause of the creation is satya, true. So how can the effect of the cause be mithya? The very word satya krit is used to establish that everything created by the Lord is factual, never false. The creation may be temporary, but it is not false, right? So this is an important distinction, right, between the Vaishnava view and the Mayavad view, right? That the Mayavad view is that everything is illusory, right? And we will say rather it is temporary. This is a temporary plane, right? It has its temporary existence. It is a creation of the Lord, but ultimately it will end. And from that perspective, it may be conceived of as illusory. But it is not that it has no existence at all, right? And then, of course, the Vaishnavas will also assert that there is an eternal factual reality, right? Which is a dynamic plane, right? And personal plane based on loving connection and so on. Well, Didi, do you want to make any commentary on that?
No, I
That's
don't
a
think I have
line
anything to add.
that's a line that the The Mayavadis like to say a lot, right? The Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you said is perfect. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something Srila Sridhar Maharaj has pointed out, right? That some of these statements in the Vedic text, they're like overemphasized by the Mayavadis, but then they're overlooking other expressions, right? Like tat tvam asi, right? That's the line, right? Is that it? Tat tvam asi means
Yeah.
that you are
Sure.
that, right?
Yeah.
That you are that. You are in other words, they're making it sound like, you are God, right? And the context of that statement is that, we are the purpose of that statement is to encourage us. You are spiritual beings, right? You are also of that spiritual nature, so don't settle for your material gain of this world, right? But you belong to that eternal spiritual world. So tat tvam asi, you are also of that, right? But
Mhm.
then this is a line that's like overemphasized by the Mayavadis that yes, you see, you are also God,
Right.
you are that, right? But then there are also other statements too, right, which are neglected, not given proper attention.
Mm.
So, well, I mean, we could stop there for today, or we could. What do you think, Didi? Should we read one more verse, or
Ah, okay.
should we stop there? Well, it's fairly short, the next one, so maybe we'll read one more.
Okay. Yeah. य एष राजन्नपि काल ईशिता सत्त्वं सुरानीकम् इवैदयत्यतः तत्प्रत्यनीकान् असुरान् सुरप्रियो रजस्तमस्कान् प्रमिणोत्युरुश्रवाः.
O king, this time factor enhances the sattva guna. Right. Is this Narada speaking to Yudhisthira? I'm trying to remember. Was that the context? No, Shukadev speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, right? Of course. Okay. So, O king, this time factor enhances the sattva guna. Thus, although the Supreme Lord is the controller, he favors the demigods who are mostly situated in sattva guna. Then the demons who are influenced by tamaguna, mode of ignorance, are annihilated. The Supreme Lord induces the time factor to act in different ways, but he is never partial. Rather, his activities are glorious. Therefore, he is called Urushava. Purport: the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu na me dveshyosti na priyaha. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be partial. He is always equal to everyone. Therefore, when the demigods are favored and the demons killed, this is not his partiality, but the influence of the time factor. A good example in this regard is that an electrician connects both a heater and a cooler to the same electrical energy. The cause of the heating and cooling is the electrician's manipulation of the electrical energy according to his desire. But factually, the electrician has nothing to do with causing heat or cold, nor with the enjoyment or suffering that results. There have been many historical incidents in which the Lord killed a demon, but the demon attained a higher position by the mercy of the Lord. Putana is an example. Putana's purpose was to kill Krishna, aho bhakiyam stanakalakutam. She approached the house of Nanda Maharaj with the purpose of killing Krishna by smearing poison on her breast. Yet when she was killed, she attains the highest position, achieving the status of Krishna's mother. Krishna is so kind and impartial that because he sucked Putana's breast, he immediately accepted her as his mother. This superfluous activity of killing Putana did not diminish the Lord's impartiality. He is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, the friend of everyone. Therefore, partiality cannot apply to the character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always maintains his position as the Supreme Controller. The Lord killed Putana as an enemy, but because of his being the Supreme Controller, she attained an exalted position as his mother. Srila Madhva Muni therefore remarks, Kale Kala Vishaya Pishita Dehadi Karanatvat Saranikam Eva Stitam Sattvam. Ordinarily, a murderer is hanged, and in the Manu Samhita it is said that a king bestows mercy upon a murderer by killing him, thus saving him from various kinds of suffering. Because of his sinful activities, such a murderer is killed by the mercy of the king. Krishna, the supreme judge, deals with matters in a similar way because he is the supreme controller. The conclusion, therefore, is that the Lord is always impartial and always very kind to all living entities. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. We're saying like that in our prayers. The king of scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. So we have concluded the text number 12 today. So we can pick up next week. All right. Well, very happy to be going through this with all of you. Does anyone want to bring up any final thoughts or questions, comments before we close for today? Suvasni, any last words, insights?
I don't have anything to add, Didi. It's wonderful. I'm happy to be going through this with you. It's so nice.
Me too. By your inspiration, Didi. I'm really happy you can be here, and we've been talking about this for a few years actually.
Yeah, yeah, we went. Yeah,
And then it
so
just
nice.
kind of spontaneously happened.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah.
so nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting just thinking about the time thing, right? Like, like with like, like I almost feel like this already happened, Like like this what we're doing now, like it already happened in a sense. And because we saw with Gurudev, like he would sometimes see things like that, like he actually mentioned that was another interesting thing he mentioned that he said that when he looked at someone's face like a film, he would see everything, their past, present, future would all like unfold in front of him. And it wasn't actually something that was, pleasant for him necessarily, it wasn't something that he wanted to see, but we could say like some type of mystic power that he had, it would just unfold in front of him. And so like for those who have that type of vision, past, present, future, like what is that even, right? It's all just in existence, floating in existence. And so, and we also can be hopeful thinking, right, that we've come to this path, we've come to the shelter of our gurus. Oh, Madhura Nan Prabhu, I'm looking at our chat. Wow, how exciting. Oh, very happy. Why don't you please turn on your camera? Nice to see you all. But Gurudev gives that there's that Vedic expression, right? Shata Patra Veda Nyai, this type of logic, the logic of passing a needle through 100 leaves at once. And the idea is that you can say that it's happened instantly, right? But from another perspective, you will say, oh, but there is some minute time going as the needle passes through each leaf, right? And so this was an explanation Srila Sridhar Maharaj used in response to a question Gurudev had, meaning to say that in a sense, when we come to the shelter of Guru and Gauranga, we are sincerely following the practice, then in a sense we can say, oh, we're already there, right? But in another sense, no, we still have some lifetimes to go through, right? Maybe hundreds, thousands of lifetimes. But within the Ananta Kal, I remember Gurudev used that expression, Ananta Kal, unlimited time. Within the scope of that, what is that? A few blips, right, that we're passing through. So we can also have some hope, right? That we've come to the shelter of Guru and Garanga. And as Gurudev used to say also sometimes, right? What a bright future you all have. That's something he used to say. You have such a bright future. So that is also our inheritance. That is our birthright. Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to use that language. That is our birthright. That applies to all of us. And so now we simply have to stick to the path and, as Gurudev said in another place, tolerate the speed of our journey. Have to tolerate the speed of our journey. Hang on for dear life and keep going, right? And be hopeful. That bright future is awaiting us, right? It is awaiting us. Madhur and Amprabhu, you have a question here. Krishna is in control, or are we mortals co-creators? Well, we could say it's both, right? Because Krishna is giving us our free will, right? And that's also within the realm of his control because he's allowing that. He's allowing us to have that free will. Um, yeah, I mean, it's both sides. We hear that expression, right? The Lord's will is behind everything. To be more precise, his will is directly or indirectly behind everything. You know, like if somebody, like Gurudev, he used an analogy, something like, if a man beats his wife, he cannot say, oh, this is Krishna's will, right? That would be a ridiculous excuse, that he's using his free will. But we can say that indirectly Krishna's will is there because he's allowing that to happen. And that, of course, is all happening as a part of a complex web of karma, right? Um, so we as aspiring Vaishnavas, we want to be a part of the Lord's direct will. We can say, we don't want to be a part of our world of imagination anymore, but we want to be a part of the Lord's world, right? And so we're trying to cooperate with that, with the information that's being given by the scripture and by the sadhus, right? They're giving us information. What's the real world like? And what's the eternal world? And how can you enter that eternal world? And we're learning about that world, the normal world, and how we can enter there and be a part of that world. Right. Um, I don't know if that actually answers your question. I think I might have gone into a bit of a different topic. Sure.
Something to think about for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean I've simplified it. It is actually it's it's a big topic, right? And I know it is a point that has been discussed quite extensively, in the writings of you know Vaishnava scholars and Vedic scholars. It is a very deep topic, actually. How much element of free will is there, and how is that interplaying with the Lord's will, and it is a complex topic. But in a simple sense, we can say, yes, there is some degree, we do have some degree of free will. And in that sense, we are, you could say, co-creating, and we are responsible, largely responsible for our environment, because of that. And so, we are given the scope, we're given the space to change our experience and to tap into a higher current and a higher flow of experience. Is that helpful at all? Or does anyone else want to add anything to that topic? Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say that, in Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna says, all actions are accomplished by these five causes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that, like we have the body, the performer, the senses, and the various endeavors, but the ultimate sanction is all, is the divine, so we can perform, according to our free will, we do the actions, but the accomplishment, he said it is that he's, the divine, that is in control. His sanction is there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, like one analogy that comes to mind now is like if you have like some children in a schoolyard, right? It's their playtime. And you have the teacher supervisors kind of like overlooking things, and they're watching over, they're making sure things don't get too out of control. And at any moment, they can intervene and establish um, something in the group. They have the overall control, but they're also keeping in the background. They're letting the kids play. They're letting the
mm,
kids work certain things out for themselves, right? Like you can't
Oh, that's a
control
great
every
analogy.
movement of the child. Sometimes the children need to trip, right? It's a part of learning to walk, it's part of the growing process. Um, but so they're kind of overlooking, but they're in the background, right? Any moment they can step in, but they're letting the kids have their space, their freedom, learn certain things, work certain things out for themselves, right? Learn that fire burns, right? Sometimes just telling them doesn't work. They need to work that out for themselves, right? Was someone saying something there? You can keep your screen on. Yeah.
that's a good analogy, actually. Very nice.
Okay, I'm glad you like
Yeah,
it.
sorry, I didn't know I wasn't on mute. I said that's a really good analogy, actually.
Okay.
When you think about it, the Lord's allowing us to learn from our own mistakes while still guiding us, or
Mm,
Guru Dev more accurately is allowing us to learn. But isn't that what they say? Why we're you want to be more humble than a blade of grass because the blade of grass moves with the will of the Lord, whereas the Jiva soul has that ability to go against that will. Is that sort of correct?
Um, yeah, I mean humility is of course good. Um, but yeah, we also have to learn, we want to align that humility with the Lord's will, right? But yes, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's definitely a very progressive concept for us. Humility. Definitely very progressive. Uh, Trying to surrender to the Lord's will and humbly tolerating the reactions to our actions, right? That's also very helpful for us. Mhm. What are your thoughts, Madhur and Prabhu?
Yeah, thinking about what you're saying, because it's an interesting concept about, oh, am I in control of what I'm doing? I'm
Mm,
watching these activities happen in front of me. What's behind this going on? Is this me? Like, am I the doer? Something else is behind that's happening. It's an interesting concept to try to pull yourself away mindfully, and well, you're still mindfully there, but you're understanding that the if I have some talents and some activities going on, they're not really my talents to like. I've got to hand it on, or by the grace of my guru, I can actually engage in this activity
mm,
by the grace of like this might be in terms of like devotional service. By the
mm,
grace of my guru, he's allowing me to engage in such activity. Not
mm,
that I am pushing my will to make something happen, and
mm,
I'm the doer of this action. But it's
mm,
an interesting concept. It's sometimes hard to know
mm,
whether it's divine intervention or divine will, or whether it's men and women pushing, humans chopping the vegetables or mixing the concrete, or underlining the words in the text.
mm,
So hard to always see.
mm. Well, those are all very thoughtful reflections. Very nice to hear, Prabhu. And I think that there's an element of pragmatism and opportunism in the life of a practitioner, that I think, there will be moments where we feel, I don't know why this is happening or where it's coming from. I don't know if this is karma. I don't know if this divine intervention. But in any case, what can I do now with the capacity that I have to bring myself closer, right, to the feet of Guru and Garanga? How can I please Guru and Garanga? With whatever capacity I have, what can I do now to bring myself closer to my devotional life, right? And I don't know where the power is coming from, and we don't know all these things, but I'll do whatever I can, right? In this moment, right? When I have this opportunity, however it has come, I will take it. Maybe it's come from my karma, or maybe it's come from some other place. Maybe it's come from my guru, but wherever it's come, I'll try to use it, like a good businessman. If you can get some opportunity, if you can get some capital in your hand, use it, to grow your business. You know, like one thing Gurudev used to say, he said, if I have $5, I'll use that $5, like with whatever I have, I'll try to use that, right? Like there's this practical element, like here and now. What can I do? I don't know exactly where it's coming from or where it's going, but I'm trying to follow the advices of Guru and scripture. And no doubt I will make mistakes, but they know my heart. They know my sincerity. They know that I'm trying, right? And others may do whatever, right? There may be some play of karma going on with devotees in our company as well, which can be sad to see. But they can go on with that, right? We will try to keep our focus on what is progressive, right? We will take the opportunity, even if no one else is taking the opportunity, we will take the opportunity according to the best of our ability, sometimes making the best of a bad bargain, right? Sometimes that's all we can do. Make the best of a bad bargain, right? Work with what we have. Use that $5, right? And a clever businessman can make $5 into $100, and they can make $100 into $1,000. So we will try to be like that, and utilize whatever we have, howsoever we can, to grow our spiritual wealth, right? And try to find those of a similar mentality. That was one thing Gurudev said once, cooperate with those who want to cooperate, right? It sounds very simple, but it's actually very profound. Like, you don't need to force this on anyone. You don't need to have so many expectations of everyone. But if someone wants to cooperate, then cooperate with them. You don't have to push it on anyone. If someone has a similar spirit to you, they're trying to move forward in a positive and progressive way, then take their hands, go forward. Go forward together with those of a similar mind, right? Let us make a beautiful offering for the Lord, right? The time's ticking, right? Mahaprabhu needs his offering. So let's make a beautiful offering and take the help of whoever is there, right? And the service will go on. Those are my thoughts anyway.
Great to see you, Vishaka. Great to hear your thoughts on such a
Oh,
matter.
great to see you too, Madhur. It's been a long time.
Yes, yes. When are you next planning on coming to Australia?
Yeah. Yeah, when?
We'd love to see you here.
Let's see. Let's see. If it is the will of the Vaishnavas of Guru Garanga, definitely have him. Oh,
Madhanavad.
Dandavad, Dandavad. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop here then for today. Very happy to have all of your good company. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Bhakti
Jai.
Radha Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
All the assembled devotees ki Jai.
Jai.
Prahlād Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Sivasnidhi ki Jai.
Jai.
Australian Bhaktavinda ki Jai. American Bhaktavinda ki Jai. Irish Bhaktavinda ki Jai. Turkish Bhaktavinda ki Jai, and Hungarian Bhaktavinda ki Jai. We have a
Universal
very
Bhaktivinoda.
international group. Done.
Jai.
Jai, Vishaka Didi ki Jai.
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 Wish you all a happy weekend ahead. Jai Shri Guru Gaur Sundar Ju ki Jai.
Jai.
Is the altar open now? Or
Oh,
no?
we just shut it about
Okay,
5 minutes ago.
yeah, it must
I'm
getting
so
late
sorry.
then.
I was going to point you towards the altar, but I just shut it beforehand
It's
because
okay. He can see us. He can see us. So.
absolutely he can. And next week I'll put the camera straight on the Lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Wishing you all a happy weekend. Jai.
Dandavat, Pranam.
Dandavat.
Thank you so much.
Yes.